Famous people aren't immortal, but some of them have enough luck to have escaped death in dangerous situations. From tragic car accidents to near plane crashes, check out these stories of celebrities who came face to face with the afterlife and lived to tell the scary tale. If you're planning on going skydiving anytime soon, you might not want to hear about Ryan Reynolds' horrifying experience from when he was just 19 years old, which he discussed with Jimmy Fallon during an appearance on The Tonight Show. On his 13th jump, his parachute opened, but then the risers broke, making him spin out of control and almost lose consciousness. Fortunately, after a bit of hesitation, Reynolds was finally able to pull the backup parachute, but even that wasn't enough to guarantee his safety. As he put it, "You can't steer the reserve chute because it's round. So I landed like 7 or 8 miles away from the actual drop zone. And I was sure I was going to land in power lines, and I thought, what a way to go. You survive a grand malfunction skydiving to burn to death. Maybe this major brush with death was how he found the confidence to play Deadpool." Funny man Tracy Morgan suffered life-threatening injuries and was in a coma for 2 weeks after a truck crashed into his limo van on the New Jersey Turnpike in June 2014. His friend and fellow passenger James McNair was killed in the accident, and 3 others were injured. A year after the crash, Morgan spoke to the Today Show about the tragic incident and his recovery.
I'm not 100% yet. I'm not. And when I'm there, you'll know it. I'll get back to making you laugh. I promise you.
In a 2015 interview with Complex, Morgan described his experience being in a coma, claiming that he went to the other side in the process. As he put it, "This is not something I'm making up. Do you know what God said to me? He said, 'Your room ain't ready. I still got something for you to do.' And here I am doing an interview with you."
Thank you so much. No, I'm just playing. Y'all thought for a minute that was real, but I'm back.
At age 3, Law & Order SVU star Mariska Hargitay was in a car accident that killed her mother, actress Jane Mansfield, in 1967. Hargitay survived the crash, but she ended up with a zigzag scar on her head. Decades later, Hargitay discussed her mother's death with Redbook magazine, saying, "Losing my mother at such an early age is the scar of my soul, but I feel like it ultimately made me into the person I am today. I understand the journey of life. I had to go through what I did to be here." On an episode of Inside the Actor's Studio, Hargitay expressed that the accident helped her find belief in God and that she's learned to make peace with it and accept her reality.
Well, I believe that there are no accidents, and I believe that God has a plan, and I have a very deep belief in God.
In 2009, Eminem released Relapse, his first album in 5 years. The title wasn't a reference to the rapper relapsing into the world of hip-hop, but rather an explicit admission of a years-long struggle with a drug problem that nearly ended his life. After falling off the sobriety wagon, the man otherwise known as Marshall Mathers took a bunch of pills given to him by an acquaintance and almost died from an overdose. A doctor told him that he'd taken methadone, a powerful drug used clinically to help heroin users cope with addiction. In an interview with Vibe magazine, Eminem admitted, "Had I known it was methadone, I probably wouldn't have taken it. But as bad as I was back then, I can't even say 100% for sure. My doctor told me the amount of methadone I'd taken was equivalent to shooting up 4 bags of heroin. Even when they told me I almost died, it didn't click." Within the span of 1 week in early 2006, Joaquin Phoenix experienced one of the best and one of the worst things to ever happen in his life. A few days before he earned an Academy Award nomination for his remarkable portrayal of Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, the actor was involved in a terrible car accident in Los Angeles. While driving on a curvy road in Laurel Canyon, the brakes on Phoenix's car reportedly gave out and he swerved to avoid hitting another vehicle, thereby flipping his own car. He was still conscious, although horribly shaken up, as he lay in the wreckage. That's when he heard a quiet rapping on the passenger side window. He looked up and there was, of all people, acclaimed German filmmaker Werner Herzog, the man behind such movies as Grizzly Man and Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Herzog happened to live near the scene of the accident, and he was there at the right time to help Phoenix out of the automobile. As Phoenix recalled to the Los Angeles Times, there was this German voice saying, "Just relax." I said to myself, "That's Werner Herzog." There's something so calming and beautiful about Werner Herzog's voice. He added, "I just got out of the car and I said, 'Thank you,' and he was gone." Kanye West loves to talk. He never seems to stop talking. That's all well and good because he's a brilliant rapper. But it's also a little ironic considering that his big musical debut was 2004's Through the Wire, a song he recorded with his jaw wired shut. The song recounts a 2002 head-on car collision that nearly killed the rapper. He told Yahoo Music in 2004 that he viewed the accident as God telling him that he was about to hand him the world. Despite coming out of it alive, West did suffer permanent effects. As he explained to Yahoo, "My face looks crazy to me now. Look at my mouth. You can't even see my bottom teeth when I talk. You always see the top teeth, and that's not how I used to be." One of the jobs of a comedian is to try to make sense of life and the universe for the rest of us, while somehow also making us smile. With that in mind, in 2016, Sarah Silverman took to Facebook to attempt to explain how she nearly died from a case of epiglottitis. She explained that she took a trip to the ICU to treat what she hoped was just a severely sore throat.
I went to the doctor with a sore throat. Who goes to the doctor for a sore throat?
You.
But I did.
You, yeah.
Doctors diagnosed her with a throat illness, a potentially fatal condition in which the epiglottis, the cartilage flap that covers the windpipe and lets air in, swells to such a degree that breathing becomes impaired. When she woke up 5 days later, she didn't remember anything. She noted that she owes her life to the medical staff that treated her. She also wrote, "There's something that happens when 3 people you're so close to die within a year, then you almost die, but don't. That was me. I'm the one that didn't die." It's a strange dichotomy between why me and the other why me. English singer Ellie Goulding saw her life nearly come to an end at age 29 in 2016. She was on a European tour and traveling across the snowy, remote Norwegian countryside with photographer Connor McDonald. They were in a 2-cabin belt wagon, which is a heavy-duty vehicle that looks like a tank, as it uses belts instead of wheels. At one point, the wagon was rolling along until it wasn't anymore. The vehicle broke through the icy layer atop a lake in the middle of the night. Goulding and McDonald had to climb out through the roof before the wagon sunk into the icy lake. McDonald admitted on Instagram that he and Goulding weren't even going to tell the general public about their brush with death until they realized that it was, quote, too mad of a story not to tell. Leonardo DiCaprio has almost died several times, like when he got mauled by a bear. Okay, that might have been from the movie The Revenant, but the actor can bring some personal experience to his death-defying performances, thanks to a near-fatal incident during one of his globetrotting adventures. It happened when he was diving in South Africa using an underwater cage, and a great white shark got trapped in the enclosure. As he explained to Wired magazine, "They leave the tops open and you have a regulator line running to the surface. Then they chum the water with tuna. A wave came and the tuna sort of flipped up into the air. A shark jumped up and grabbed the tuna, and half of its body landed inside the cage with me. I sort of fell down to the bottom and tried to lie flat. The great white took about 5 or 6 snaps an arm's length away from my head." The guys there said that has never happened in the 30 years they've been doing it. The shark's aggressive undulations ultimately resulted in the animal flipping itself out of the cage. And that wasn't the only instance when DiCaprio narrowly escaped death. There's also the time he thought he died and gone to heaven. He was on a plane to Russia and the engine exploded. As he told Ellen DeGeneres during an appearance on her show, he was looking out the window and the entire engine turned into a fireball. The whole thing happened so quickly that he actually thought he had died. Fortunately for everyone on board, the plane safely made an emergency landing. However, DiCaprio noted that the disaster continued even after the flight had ended. As he explained, "All of our tires exploded and there was 100 different ambulances there, and it was on CNN, and that was another bummer." Actor Gary Busey is a longtime motorcycle enthusiast. He loved to ride around the Los Angeles area on his Harley-Davidson, but he also hated wearing a helmet while he did so. In November 1988, he even attended a benefit in North Hollywood to raise money to hire lobbyists to fight a California state law requiring riders to wear helmets. Just a few weeks later, he was riding his Harley in Culver City, California, when he lost control. Busey was thrown off the bike and the back of his head hit the curb. And of course, he wasn't wearing a helmet. He suffered severe trauma on his head and underwent emergency brain surgery.
Could you be a little more graphic about that?
Okay, I can't.
No, they actually opened your skull?
Yeah.
4 weeks later, Busey woke up from a coma and began the long road to recovery. His doctors later told him that if he had arrived at the hospital just 3 minutes later, he wouldn't have survived. He now preaches a very different message. In 1991, he told USA Today, "I want people to understand that life is very important, and that if you're riding a motorcycle, skateboard, or bicycle without a helmet, you're challenging the face of death." Actress Sharon Stone was one of the biggest screen sirens of the 90s. After such films as Basic Instinct and Silver, most people with a pulse either wanted to be with Sharon Stone or they wanted to be Sharon Stone. She always exuded an unflappable confidence, but all the sense of self in the world can't prepare a person for the sudden loss of just about everything. In 2001, Stone felt a pain in her brain so severe that she sought medical attention, convinced that she'd suffered a brain hemorrhage. The problem turned out to be a deadly aneurysm that wreaked havoc on her brain. She ended up having to relearn how to walk, hear, write, talk, remember, and do just about everything all over again. The incident didn't take her life, though it sure felt that way at times. She's noted that her condition wrecked her career and marriage, and even cost her custody of her child. But eventually, she was able to see the whole thing as a rebirth. She spoke of the experience on an episode of Oprah's Masterclass.
Everything got richer for me through this experience. Everything got better for me through this experience.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Nicki Swift videos about your favorite stars are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.